Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Sonali Tamankar, and this is our AI A to Z series. Today, we have AI for the minimalist. U is for UMAP, or Uniform Manifold Approximation and Projection. What in the world is this? This AI algorithm is kind of a sketch artist. A real person in front of you is complex, even externally. There is the texture and colors of the clothing, so many details that make up their face, the way the light is reflected, so much information, so much data. What a sketch artist does is to somehow capture the most salient information in just a few strokes. We talked yesterday about training data. Let's introduce a term called the dimensionality of data. Loosely speaking, it's how many independent numbers we need to describe a single observation. Here are some examples. Here is a famous data set called MNIST, handwritten digits stored as 28 by 28 grayscale images, 60,000 of them. Even then, we need 784 numbers just to represent one image. In healthcare, a single patient might be described by lab values, billing codes, medications, clinical notes, and imaging data, each of which is multidimensional in itself. In genetics, data can be even higher dimensional, with measurements taken across millions to billions of base pairs. Imagine trying to draw a graph with 784 axes for the handwritten digits data. It's impossible for the human brain. UMAP can squash that down to a regular 2D graph we can see on our screen. See how beautifully the digits begin to separate even in this two-dimensional projection? The deep red is 0, orange is 2, and blue is 8. Each point comes from one handwritten image. Most of the handwritten 8s clustered together here in blue with an occasional purple point, a 9 that looks enough like an 8 to get mixed in. Let's pause for a minute to appreciate the magic of this. 2 numbers is about the same quantity of data as 2 grayscale pixel values. If we actually pick 2 pixels from the image, we would have no hope of separating the digits. But because 2 numbers UMAP finds, these are not pixels. They are learned coordinates that summarize the entire image, much like our sketch artist captures the essence of a person through a few strokes. The brilliance of the sketch artist and the UMAP algorithm lies in figuring out how to compress information so drastically and still preserve the most salient pieces. This process is called dimensionality reduction in math and machine learning. We have seen other examples of this already. You might remember we looked at this plot in our B is for bias video. Researchers compared GPT against human values from around the world. Now, values is a complex multidimensional construct. In the work Which Humans, which I link below, researchers used data from World Values Survey, which has hundreds of questions. If they just showed us the raw data, GPT responses versus those from different countries for all of these questions, our heads will swim. Reducing the dimensions down to 2 allows researchers to make their point with this one plot. There are many algorithms for dimensionality reduction. Principal components analysis, t-SNE, and UMAP are a few key ones, each one with different strengths. One way to think of dimensionality reduction is choosing the right viewpoint. If we look at a galaxy from above, we clearly see its spiral structure. If we look at it edge on, everything collapses on top of itself. Principal components analysis tries to find such viewing directions, linear combinations of features that spread the data out as much as possible. The fact that this is a linear algorithm can have particular advantages. On the other hand, sometimes the principal components analysis does not separate structure as clearly as UMAP, for example, on data sets like MNIST. Let's use this same galaxy image to make a different point. Many datasets have points that don't fill space randomly. They lie along natural shapes. Like in a galaxy, stars trace spiral arms rather than occupying the entire volume uniformly. In mathematics, we call these structured shapes manifolds. Manifolds can be thought of as curves, rubber sheets, or their higher dimensional cousins. We could measure the straight line distance between two stars, but that can miss the point. Two stars on different spiral arms can be physically close, yet very far apart if you move along the curved spiral itself. Distance along the structure can be more meaningful than the distance through space. So UMAP works by focusing on local neighborhoods, identifying which points are close along the data's natural shape, and then finding a low-dimensional representation that keeps those nearby points nearby. The t-SNE algorithm focuses almost entirely on local neighborhoods, while UMAP also tries to retain some broader global relationships between clusters. In traditional machine learning, some algorithms work better with limited number of features, so we use these dimensionality reduction algorithms to pre-process the data. This is one way they are used. As we saw, they are also excellent for visualizing data, both in traditional machine learning and also in the field of generative AI. Here are a couple more examples. The first example is a single cell gene expression data. I think the real power of UMAP is that I can just show you this plot and say nothing more. It explains itself. This is incredibly complex data collected to understand how individual cells work. For each cell, we measure the activity of tens of thousands of genes, so each data point lives in a very high dimensional space. When we reduce all of that down to just 2 dimensions using UMAP, we can already see meaningful structures emerge. Liver cells over here, skin cells over there, gut cells forming their own cluster. Another example comes from a language model called BERT. BERT is an encoder-only model, while GPT we talked about is a decoder-only model, but both are built on the same attention architecture introduced in the Attention is All You Need paper. They both have contextual embeddings, so words like bark or die can have different mathematical representations depending on whether we are talking about die as in reach the end of one's life or die as in the playing die. Or so we claimed in our G is for GPT video. How do we know this is true? Here is a concrete demonstration. A paper I link below used UMAP to project down to 2 dimensions and demonstrated that depending on the context, the data points do cluster together in different groups. The embeddings of the same 3-letter word die belong to one cluster if it appears in the context of a person dying or for faces of a die versus the German article D. All these dimensions reduced down to 2 for us to see in front of our eyes. Doesn't that make your minimalist heart sing? Thanks to UMAP and friends. So our takeaways in a nutshell, like a sketch artist, some AI algorithms capture data minimally, like UMAP, principal components analysis, and t-SNE. Dimensional reduction is used for pre-processing and especially for visualizations. So tomorrow we'll be back with verifiability. I think we'll be hearing much more about this topic in 2026 and beyond. See you then, and bye for today.